Welcome to What Dogs Have Taught Me. I'm your host, Julie Hart, and this is the podcast where we stop to wonder if we are truly grasping the lessons our canine companions could teach us. I'm a dog rehabilitator, here with something you may not know. The greatest teachers about dogs aren't necessarily human, they're actually the dogs themselves. At What Dogs Have Taught Me, we dive deep into the educational, practical, and sometimes controversial aspects of understanding our canine companions. Whether you're a seasoned dog trainer, devoted rescuer, loving foster parent, or simply someone who shares their life with the dog, this podcast is for you. So whether you're looking to deepen your understanding of dog behavior, refine your training techniques, or simply revel in the magic of all things dog, you're in the right place. Let's have a heart-to-heart. Phyllis and I are back to talk about some dog training myths going on out in the dog training world. We see a lot of practices which are a little bit concerning to us, and this podcast might not make everyone happy, but that's okay because ultimately we are here for the dog's best interest and the people that are the dog's companions. We're going to talk about the myths of having to wear a bite suit when you're going on a pet dog consult, and also talk about why that's not a good idea and why it shouldn't be needed in the first place. We're going to talk about the misconception that the only way to build a relationship or fulfill your dog is with a flirt pole and tug. And the last myth we're going to talk about is that an e-collar is needed and can be used to solve all dog training problems in a matter of 3 weeks. So Phyllis Smuland is my mentor, friend, and dog training consultant. And we've known each other for 16 years. And she has been in the business for over 40 years and made a living, and quite a good one, training client dogs. But before that, she was involved in protection work, and she worked under a couple trainers that specialized in aggression. So she is not a stranger to aggressive dogs or reactive dogs. And so I hope you guys can gather some wisdom from her years and years of experience. Just as an added bonus, we've put in a truth is stranger than fiction story in the middle of the podcast. So I hope you guys enjoy.
Phyllis Smuland.
Oh, Phyllis is calling. Let's get this podcast rolling. We've been seeing some concerning posts on Facebook. I know, shocking. But there's a few things that we've been talking about privately that I thought maybe we should discuss on the podcast just to give other people information about what's going on. And of course, we're only seeing a small section of the dog training world. I'm not saying everyone's doing this, but it's things that are popping up on my feed. And, I think we need to maybe give people more details about when they can do these things, when it's a good idea, when it's a bad idea, all that sort of thing. So anyway, I was getting a little jazzed up just writing these things because it's concerning to me that people are thinking this is the right way or the only way to do things. And I think we can shed some light on some alternatives that might be better for the people and the dogs. And we are talking about, just to be clear, we're talking about human companion dogs, mostly during this podcast. And if we're not, Phyllis will specify. But one of the big things we're seeing happening is people are starting to use bite suits for lessons for companion dogs. And when I first saw this, I was like, what is this? Because I've been with you on many consults with aggressive dogs and sketchy dogs, and you never put a bite suit on.
No.
So So I was like, what the heck is going on? And I did make a comment on a post that, got some people pretty upset about why you would need a bite suit or not to assess temperament of a dog in a shelter.
If you specialize and work with aggressive dogs, you should very easily be able to recognize the level of aggression in the dog that you're evaluating without wearing a bite suit. You should know from an evaluation form what you're getting ready to go see, short video clips. You should be able to assess that without a bite suit.
So elaborate on that more. Like what would be red flags for you that you're dealing with a really aggressive dog versus, let's say, a scared reactive dog?
Well, let's just say both dogs can bite, and that's why these people are wearing bite suits. And for me, if you're doing that and you're allowing this dog to make contact, you're allowing the dog to escalate in biting, period. The idea with a dog that's biting inappropriately, fearful or not fearful, regardless, it doesn't really matter. The idea when you start training that dog is that dog never lands another bite. It's not about seeing where the dog's going to target the bite, although I don't hear people talking about that. Do they even know that they're looking for that? I see people laughing and thinking it's funny. So what's your energy when you're testing these dogs wearing bite suits? And please, like, nobody's got a face mask. If you don't know how dangerous the dog is you're looking at, you don't know that this dog isn't going to launch at your face. So
you sent me a picture of the old school like bite suit with the cage around the head. That was hysterical.
Well, but guess what? They're safe. If you have your safety face muzzle on yourself, you're also protected, at least to some degree, until you get that real serious dog that can bash that in.
And one of the videos I was watching, the person was wearing a bite suit and it looked like some kind of gloves, but they were very thin. So they were not like proper bite gloves like you would use to handle a dog in a shelter or something like that. And that's where the dog was targeting her.
Well, but this is what I'm saying. If you can work with an aggressive dog, you should know what you're looking at without allowing the dog to make physical contact. And why else wear the bite suit? If we want to work with a really dangerous dog and we want to see where that dog is targeting, that would make sense. But why still?
Well, how would you do that? And why would you want to know?
Well, because it depends on where the dog's biting as to how serious it is.
So
if the dog targets the middle of your midsection, you're in more danger than if the dog is just tagging your forearm, right? So, and not for nothing, nobody walks around looking like the Michelin Man in neighborhoods with pet dogs. It can look odd to a fearful dog. You could actually create a problem there. Yeah,
and I would imagine if you're wearing that bite suit, actually doing sport stuff, that bite suit could actually smell of all kinds of like adrenalized dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Am I thinking correctly?
Yeah, you are.
It may not be the best smell to have on you when you're going to meet a strange dog.
I mean, there are very few reasons to wear bite suits in dog training. When it comes to pet dogs, I don't find too many reasons for anybody to utilize that method, that training purpose. I have one case years and years ago when I was training under another trainer that dealt with very serious aggression. And there was a bite suit that we used with one particular dog. That dog had not had bites and had significant aggression. Somebody had allowed their golden retriever to be off leash and yelled across the street, "My dog is friendly, don't worry." Her Shar-Peis were typical Shar-Peis. They were very dog aggressive. These dogs had never had a problem before. And when they got a hold of the golden retriever and the golden's owner stepped in, the golden's owner got bitten, right? And by which dog, nobody knew. So they went after the client. And so now her dogs were at risk of being euthanized. And we took those dogs in for a board and train. And the male was a dangerous dog. And the guy that I was working with, he did use a bite suit. And he used a bite suit in the same time he was correcting the dog to teach the dog not to make contact. Right? And that enabled him to step in and get really, really close and stop the dog right on time, right when the dog thought about it, and not utilize a muzzle. All right. And we also used a leash on a pole. So it was like a mini catch pole that we used on those dogs. And so they couldn't reach us. And we held the pole and we could handle the dogs that way. That was one of the most dangerous dogs I'd ever worked with. Right. And under the supervision of somebody who knew a lot more than I did. And that's the only time I've ever seen that used in 4 decades, other than when we're training dogs, in sport. It's much different, I don't find any use for it. I don't find any reason why a trainer needs to utilize a bite suit to see if the dog's going to bite. You should know. You should know if the dog's going to follow through. Even if the dog hasn't landed a bite yet, you should know if the dog is serious enough that it might follow through. And then your training for a dog like that should be teaching the dog to be calm and relaxed. You should connect with the dog. The dog has to have some kind of relationship with you before you start correcting it. Right?
So how do you know how serious the dog is?
By the dog's behavior.
Well, describe it.
Like,
give me examples.
Intensity. The level of intensity. Is the dog afraid? Is it not afraid? If the dog's afraid, you can get that level of intensity to drop down. It just takes time. If the dog is forward and the dog means it, and it's one in what I would say 5 or 10% of the canine population. So somebody's going to come across a forward, aggressive, really serious, dangerous dog, a dog that doesn't have any anxiety and has no fear whatsoever. It's rare. And if you have that, you better have enough knowledge to be taking that dog on for training. Right? I still reach out to other trainers when I get dogs that come in that are real serious. I will reach out to other trainers sometimes and say, look, this is not for me. I've got, a lot of experience, but not experience in certain things. And I think that's the thing with trainers now. It's like everybody's a specialist in everything. Everybody is a specialist in aggression, fear, aggression, anxiety, and they're not that seasoned. And I don't know how you can be an expert in everything,
In 5 years.
In 5 years. I didn't say it. I was going to, but I didn't. I mean, I've seen some people that have very few years experience and they're just exceptional dog handlers and they're hungry to learn stuff. And they're better than some trainers who've been handling dogs for 10 years. You either have it or you don't, but you can't make it happen. Right? And I think everybody who's involved may have their what's that word, niche in training, but then you should find that and then you focus on that and you can really, really help people. But when I see things like what you're talking about and it's being made fun of and your energy's wrong and these temperament tests, so quote unquote temperament tests that are happening, people are missing so much stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? Right?
Well, so before we move on, we were discussing a dog, and you were talking about the dog's bark and how you could tell if that dog was serious or not.
Oh, yeah.
So describe that a little bit.
A broken bark and pause is just an alert system.
Oh, come on. You got to give a real bark.
Make me bark. Come on, man. Get at that. Oh boy. Especially when you put me on the spot.
That's like, arf, arf, arf,
You can have the
arf, arf. Is that-
now
there
you
you
got
go.
okay. All right, I had to practice. I'm good. I have life on tape. So if you have a dog that is barking and just stopping, bark, stop, right? There's a break in it. Hey, what's going on? Hey, there's somebody over there. Hi. It's nothing. Most of the time, it's nothing. If you have the howl in between the bark, right? And there's barking in between the howling, the dog is nervous. It's pretty clear, right? If you have a steady, deep, guttural bark, and it is steady and it means it, you can hear the difference. Think about a Rottweiler bark.
Well, there's been a couple videos I've taken at the shelter and sent you.
No, now
It is crystal clear, especially if you've been going to shelters and you see how most dogs react in their kennels, right? Like some don't bark, but many bark. And you learn the difference between a dog that's looking at you in a different way, especially if it starts to target you when you start to open the gate.
Yeah. Well, I mean it. It's a real deep, steady bark. There's nothing broken in it, and it's staying right where it is. It's not
a little dog, though.
Huh?
What if it's a little dog and those dogs have higher barks?
Good point.
So I'm just trying to think of what that would.
It's still continual.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, all right. Oh, well, here. What about Tipsy?
Oh, yeah.
Here's the problem. She meant it, right?
Yeah.
She never barked.
Yeah.
Just bite the shit out of you. So when you have a real serious dog, like a real fucking serious dog, the dog isn't going to make noise. Silence is deadly. They're just going to hurt you. And you got to know what that looks like too, right? It looks like you can feel it when you walk away, right? They don't take their eyes off you.
Yeah. And that goes back to, well, I made a post today on Facebook about you have to be calm and quiet your mind so you can absorb what energy is coming toward you. And I think if you can do that, you can feel the difference.
Yes.
And, it's important, I think, as a dog trainer to work on that skill. It's never perfect, right? No one's ever perfect in it. But like we were doing team katas and karate where you basically have to move with each other with no verbal at all.
Correct.
It's all like breathing, and you listen for sounds of the gi moving and just peripheral vision and stuff. But if you really get quiet, you can actually kind of feel a shift.
You can. Yes.
So
I mean, it's like the dog, that one dog I keep talking about. The one we posted something on Facebook, and everybody gave me a hard time, said I didn't have a leash on the dog. In 4 decades, I'm allowed a mistake. I didn't have a leash on the dog, but I tell you what, if I had a leash on that fucking dog, that dog would have nailed me because the owner would have pulled back and held tension. She would not have been able to hold on to that dog, and we would have been bitten. So yes and no. You got to know enough to know enough. In that same mistake, you could feel it like a knife cutting through something. The air was still.
And you're like, oh shit.
Well, I always like to say I can feel my eyes dilating when I really fucking mean it. Not that I want to post that, but it's like tunnel vision. You're looking at what's in front of you, and it wants to really hurt you. And how are you going to back that up? You're not going to back that up physically. You got to really mean it.
Yeah.
And when your life is in danger, sometimes you know how to do that. And if you go onto defense, you're going to get hurt. So there's been very few dogs that have had that happen. But honestly, the times it's happened, there has not been a leash on the dog. And it's the one time that I got nipped at a door, and I mean because I moved fast enough, was because there was tension in the leash from the client. And the dog came forward, right? And actually, it got my clipboard. It didn't get me. And it was in a split level. A Malinois military dog. It was left with a girlfriend. The guy left her and left the dog. She got the dog, right? So she met me at the top and did not know it was a split level. I learned my lesson about asking people about that. And I still have that clipboard with a bunch of teeth marks in it.
Because the dog was above you.
The dog was above me. I backed myself out the door and just kept blocking the dog. And I got really lucky, actually. So I wouldn't have been able to back that dog up. There's no way. And she couldn't hold on to the dog either. Right? So I've made some mistakes. I was younger and thinking I knew more than I knew. And I put myself in bad situations, right? Like that one. And I also learned from them. But if you want to learn how to deal with really serious dogs like that, you should train under somebody who does that.
And does it well.
And does it well, correct.
Like, I don't, this is not my specialty. I think everyone knows that. And everyone who's listening probably knows what my specialty is. And I don't do it for a reason, because it's just not in line with like my personality. And I think as a trainer, sometimes you have to be able to go like, is this really what I should be doing? There's lots of dogs out there that need training that aren't of this caliber.
Correct. It's like I don't know. Wasn't there a talk of somebody saying, I forgot who I was talking to, and somebody was real proud that they had taken another badge of honor. They had taken another bite. Oh. And why would you post that on Facebook that you're so proud that you've taken a bite? What? Really? You should be taking no bites and be proud of that. Yeah. Every trainer gets their bite. You've had yours. I've had mine. I had mine the first 8 months of my career. I got mauled really, really badly, like really badly. And then I got up and dusted myself off and answered an ad that said, hard work, low pay, dangerous dogs, inquire within, something to that effect. Right? Thank you, Bob Maida. Podcast yet to come, right?
Hopefully, Bob.
Yep. And I learned how not to get bit instead of that I feel great that I handled such an aggressive dog that I took a bite. That's not how it's supposed to work. And the idea of us letting pet dogs have bites after we're there to help the people not allow the dog to bite anymore, I think is the whole point. And wearing a bite suit to test a dog that has an aggression problem is allowing that dog to make more bites. And we're talking about pet dogs. And so, going back to the whole bite suit thing. Yeah, no, that's, I don't understand why people think that that's the right thing to do. It's not.
And also, it was occurring to me that your first impression with a dog is pretty important.
Yep.
Right. I mean, just like with anyone else, right? First impressions are hard to change.
So actually, can I stop you? Because me, I'm going to forget my thought.
Yeah.
Other things I'm seeing about temperament testing is that it is incorrect because it's only a blurb in time. It's only a moment in time. During your moment in time, a test is only as good as the tester, and you must know how to test that dog as an individual, which does not mean we're going by the book as far as, for instance, reading a Volhard test or a Sternberg test or any of these great tests that are out there. Think about some of those. Volhard doesn't include anything like resource guarding, which is critical for pet dogs, right? Resource guarding is genetic. It's either there or it's not there. And in the case of a pet dog owner with kids in the house, you can have no level of resource guarding. It's going to be a problem. Right. So there are certain things that, or what order you're doing the test in. I had talks with people who've been temperament testing retrievers for generations upon generations. And one day I said, why in the world are we rolling these dogs on the number 3 on this test? I said, because a dog is going to give in to you. You have just camouflaged the rest of your test because you might not see the same things in that dog now that you've done that. And they all looked at me and their mouths dropped open and they went, holy shit. I was like, yeah, so let's do it last. Okay. And then the resource test after that. No, yes. This is where I'm like,
No,
do people
do the resource
know
test first?
doing things or not doing things? Do you know when to stop a test? So I went and temperament tested a litter of poodle puppies, about a week or 2 ago. And the first puppy that was set over the pen sat there and didn't move. And the breeder walked away. And I said, hey, can you come back and get this one? I'm done. I don't need to test that dog anymore. Second puppy, same thing. Guess what? Third puppy, good puppy. Guess what? 2 different dads.
Oh.
Okay. So half that litter tested good and half that litter was real sour. I don't need to temperament test the whole puppy. For what? It's not a pass or fail, but that's a fearful puppy, and I'm not interested in that for my client. Right? They got a really nice puppy, actually. But you have to know what to test for and what not to test for. Actually, I videoed that, and when I did the resource test, I took the bone from here. I reached in and took it.
With your mouth?
I reached.
Okay, don't do this at home, people.
Yeah.
This is dog trainers fooling.
That puppy was absolutely not going to be a problem. All right. The mother dog was great. Interestingly enough, after the test, the mother dog, I gave her the chew, the rest of it. And the puppy started to walk towards her and she went. And the puppy just kept trotting right past her. So was that's correct? Did I have anything to worry about? I had nothing to worry about. And I knew that. So it was funny. I was making fun. There was no reason to be concerned. And you should know that as a trainer, when you're testing a dog, you should have some kind of clue about what that dog's going to do. You also need to be really neutral. A lot of these tests I see on Facebook, these people are not neutral. They're making a bunch of noise. They're talking in the background. You got multiple people sitting in the room. You got distractions and other dogs. You got things going on. What are you doing? Or you're having the person who raised the dog test the dog. Another thing, it's incorrect.
Big no-no.
It's a big no-no.
I mean, conflict of interest, and you can't be objective, first of all.
No, and then we hear things like, well, of course it was nervous. It was a test in the middle of a place where the dog had never been before or didn't know you. What? So it's not normally like that? It's only because of the test? Well, why are you doing the test? I'm confused. Does that make sense?
So the whole reason you do a temperament test is to put the dog under stress and see what its natural inclinations are under stress.
Correct. I should you're right.
That's when shit's going to hit the fan, when it's in a pet home, right? And there's a stressful event. Let's say it's a birthday party or whatever, right? Take it to the pet store for the first time or whatever. And someone runs up to it. Oh, what a cute puppy. Right? We want to know, what is that dog going to do? What if the dog is, what was the story I just had? Oh yeah, it was you about a dog being in a house. The dog was in the house with a family member, not the owner.
Yeah.
And things happen under those situations that maybe the owner wouldn't allow. Right.
Can you remind me about
the baby?
Oh, the baby. Oh, yes. Okay. Yeah.
And so, like these things happen, right? The lady was in the shower. The family member was taking care of the baby dog.
Yep. 10-year-old dog.
But the point is that You need to know what the dog's natural inclinations are under stress without any guidance from a human.
Correct.
So,
Otherwise, all of a sudden, for no reason, my dog got aggressive, right? There's no such thing. That doesn't happen unless the dog has some kind of brain tumor, right? Or is having some kind of neurological effect from something.
some kind of medical.
Well, I mean, like there was the one case with the dog that bit the woman in the back of the neck after getting a dose of Bravecto, and the dog had never shown aggression. I think the dog was 5 years old.
All right. So back to what I was going to say is if you're a dog trainer and you're trying to make a first impression on a dog, I mean, what I do is generally go in there pretty neutral, right? And depending on what I see, like if I realize the dog's pretty serious, I'm probably not going to step into that dog and try and do anything with it. I'm going to have the owner do it. But that's me. That's how I handle it.
I mean,
but hold on. So, but if you go in a bite suit and the dog's first impression of you is you allowing it to bite you.
Yep.
I mean, how is that going to affect the rest of your relationship with that dog?
It's not good. And it's not necessary. I think it was the whole point.
Yeah.
Right. But you're right. It's not.
Like, because you're also not respecting the dog's warning signals to you.
Correct. Well, I think a couple things, right? One, let's say you have a fearful dog that's biting, right? So you don't want the dog biting again. You need to build trust with the dog right away. It's not about correcting any kind of aggression, because the idea is that you help the dog find a better peaceful state of mind where it's not going into that state to begin with before you start moving forward. Right. So that's a lot of work between the owner and the dog. And me personally, when I'm working with real serious dogs, I'm working with any molossers, if I'm working with livestock guardians that mean business, right? Or any dog, let's take a cattle dog, real serious cattle dog wants to really nail you. Okay. Right. Am I handling that dog? Why? I don't need to handle the dog. I need to teach my client how to handle the dog. So why are we handling really dangerous, aggressive dogs anyway? We need to teach our clients how to do that. You get them to muzzle condition the dog, right? In some cases, the client's getting bitten. So there's a lot, we can go pretty deep on that one, right? But when we're dealing with really serious dogs, we need to teach our clients how to handle the dog. It's not about us stepping in and, oh, yeah, hey, I went and took this really aggressive Rottweiler today, and I had him in my hands on a leash within 5 minutes. I did great today. Pat on the back. But can your client handle that dog? Because that's what our jobs are. Our jobs are to teach people about how to handle pet dogs. It's not about what we can or can't handle. It's how much knowledge we have, but it's not about what we can and can't handle. We need to be able to handle it to some degree, right? Like a lot of these aggressive dogs I work with, the first couple of sessions, I might not handle the dog. Sometimes I think I'm not going to, and I do, but in cases where you're dealing with more serious dogs, there's no reason for us to take the leash the first, second session. There's no reason to wear a bite suit and allow the dog to make contact. And right away, we're the best person when we come and work with the client, the very first meeting on how to help that client not allow that dog to show aggression or, how to work the dog out of it, because we're not going anywhere. When you're walking the dog down the street, you have somebody come into your house, you end up locking the dog up or whatever the client's doing. They need help right then and there. When you come to the door, wherever they're having problems with that dog being aggressive, they need instructions from the dog handler how to do that right away, not how to, let's see what the dog's doing. You don't need to see what the dog's doing. You already know what's doing. Your clients told you why they're having you come to see them, because they're having problems.
If you've done a proper intake with your client.
Well, yes, proper intake forms are mandatory. It's so important, and it's a safety thing. And you also have to know how to question people so they're giving you the right answers, because a lot of people, they're like, well, we have this little problem. It's like, I'll tell you, a lot of my clients who have filled my forms out have said to me, wow, that taught me so much about my dog.
Just filling out the form.
Yeah. Huh. Because they're like, wow, I really have a problem. Like I wasn't even thinking about I was thinking that we had this one incident, but now looking back, we've had multiple incidents, right?
Yeah, so just in case people are wondering, you can go to caninecounselorinc.com and look at the training application, or it has questions on it because I think we wrote it together. Not only has a dog bitten you or a family member, has a dog bitten visitors or growled at visitors? How does the dog act at the vet? How does the dog react to other dogs?
Like requiring medical attention, right?
Yeah. How severe, if the dog has bitten, has it required medical attention? Where was the bite? We are asking a lot of questions that let us ascertain if the dog is or is not a big problem.
I mean, you actually wanted me to talk about this. I had a case with 3 dogs, all fighting in the home. And one dog was doing the most damage. And believe it or not, that dog ended up being the softest dog. That dog did not want to fight. That dog wanted out every single time. It defended itself to 100%. It wanted to survive. Okay. But the other dog, when I read the intake form, the older dog, I was like,
it's black dog?
Yeah, 3 black dogs in the same house. So it's a Great Dane, an American Bully, and a Pit Bull. 2 males and female. Female's Pit Bull, who was very happy to jump into the dog fight between the 2 males and go, I know how to do that. I know how to do that. I'm coming to help you. Right. So, and all the dogs have landed a bite on the clients as well, breaking up the dog fights, which I know those dogs know who they're biting. Right. So I knew from my intake form that the most dangerous dog was the bulldog. It was not the Pit Bull. It wasn't the Great Dane. And I knew that just from what I was reading. I knew that before I got there. And I walked in the door, and the very second they came around the corner with the dog, I looked at the client and I said, I knew it. It's him. 2 seconds. Guess who was right at the end of that test? That dog is dangerous. He's dangerous.
Hold on. What on the form told you that was the dog that was causing the problems?
No, I gotta look at it. And here's the thing, like, it scared my client a little bit because that dog had not had a bite like the Great Dane had had. So the Great Dane had a bite on a child, but it was out of defense. So all the dogs are on oral flea and tick medication, which we recommend they take it off. All 3 dogs had been to 3-week ECollar training.
Oh, it fixed the
by the way, one of the dogs the 3rd dog, when it came home, the girl said, well, you don't need a lesson because we've trained the other 2. It's raining. So she just dropped off the dog and left. How do you like that?
So the one was really wanted to move away from dogs that were barking.
And the other one is staring. Watches.
Quiet stare.
Here it is. Okay, hold on. 5 years old. No bite on a human. 80 pounds. Raised from puppy. Feed all the dogs separately. 3 weeks board and train. Had 1 lesson from the trainer.
ECollars. So were they using the ECollars when you got there?
No, they didn't know. No, because they didn't know what to do, because the last time they were dropped off, they didn't even give them a lesson. But no, they weren't using them. They really didn't get enough instruction on it. They were kind of confused about what to do with them, honestly. But what do you get after 1 lesson?
Right.
Let's see. Willingly goes in the crate, but occasionally he needs a nudge or a treat to get him to comply. Not a big deal, but he's hesitating. Okay. Allowed to get on the furniture anytime he wants to. Rarely left alone. He fixates on something, on a water flow in the backyard, to a point where he's impossible to get him off of it. Bingo. Hold on.
Could also be the oral flea and tick meds.
Ever since the dog fight, they don't allow this dog to be anywhere near other dogs. And said he's a hot mess when he sees other dogs on a walk. That's how they described it. If the dog barks at him, he will bark back, but most of the times he will just look and then ignore. So he's watching. Don't go to dog parks. Plays with an old dog across the street. He's so excited when he sees people come in the home, he barks at them. He's so excited and he's so happy. I would never describe this dog as being scared. He's not afraid of anything. Does not have trouble being handled, and he loves the groomer. Not possessive of toys or food, so he's not afraid. Remember, resource guarding comes from defense 99.9% of the time. On a rare occasion,
you know what we should do for another podcast is just go through your intake form and go through why you asked the questions.
Okay, here it is. Okay, so I don't think he's possessive of food or toys. On rare occasion, they have a bone. And if I see the dogs eating the other dog's bone, I take them away. If a dog or a person has something he wants, or if he wants to sit on the couch or sit where you're sitting, he will continue to bark at you. So like if you're sitting on the couch and he wants that spot, he's barking at them to move. Okay. And they were moving for them, actually. Which is also why this dog wasn't biting them.
Right.
They complied.
They were doing what he asked.
Has he ever bitten you? Yes, when breaking up a dog fight between him and the other dog. Stitches were required and antibiotics, but we're not 100% sure which dog bit us. If he does not get enough playtime, he chases his tail. Remember, I always say tail chasing is linked with aggression also. He occasionally licks his paws and shows some angst, when he's not getting his way. He's stubborn and he talks back to us. He's a great dog and he's very affectionate. Okay.
Means he's controlling their space, probably.
Yeah. So there was a lot of spatial control and there was a lot of some level of barking there, but also some level of stillness. I don't know. I just knew. I don't know.
Obsessive behavior with the water.
Yeah. He's not breaking fixation. Right. And honestly, Julie, that's exactly what he did when I had the kid bring him out and the trainer that was with me. I mean, I could hear him behind me and he went, ooh, and I did allow that dog to come up and sniff. And you know what he did? What did he do, Julie? He came low and he sniffed.
Picturing it.
And he rolled his
still sniff. Yeah. And then looks up.
Contact. And as he's coming up, he's stiffening his posture. And I'm not looking, and I go to the kid, hey, can you just kind of move him on into the living room? And by the way, don't pull on the leash, just call him. Just play and call him. Why do I tell him that? Because the minute there's tension on that leash, you can get bit. And then people go, well, Phyllis, why didn't you have a muzzle on the dog? And I'm like, no.
Well, and why didn't you make eye contact with him?
Because I knew what to do so I don't get bit. You should know what you're doing to not get bit also. But
people would be like, but you had to show him you're in charge. And so
no, that dog I was in charge, I would have broken any kind of good relationship with that dog for later, because sometimes you have to partner with dogs like that. You have to be meaningful, right? They have to want to be with you, and you have to connect with them a little bit. And that's kind of like that Akita I told you about. That dog had killed a bunch of cats and was really dog aggressive. And she didn't like people either. She liked people too. I didn't just come in with that dog and jerk around a 90-pound Akita and tell her to straighten her ass out. Like my client could do that. I'm just going to straighten her ass out. She's never going to bite me again. I mean, come on, man. It took months for me to get that dog to like me. And I'll tell you what, when she liked me, she did anything for me. So sometimes when you have a more serious, more confident, more forward dog, again, I mean, maybe you have a better way of saying it, but you got to have some kind of meaningful relationship with the dog where they want to work with you. And then when you get to know that dog a little bit, then you can tell them,
A little bit. Don't do that.
hey, buddy, you're
Yeah.
going to back up. Right. But, and that's also something I don't have my clients do. Oh, okay. So the client A calls and says, bingo bit me today. And, it was bad. I needed stitches this time. Now he's nipped me a few times and he's been growling, and he's about 5 years old, but like this time he really, he kind of got me good and I had to go get stitches. I'm going to go to that person's house and teach him how to back the dog up. What? No, they're going to get bit.
And they're not going to
back the dog up for what? Even if I can, what's the point? What is the point of that? With any kind of aggression, to me, you have to build some kind of relationship first. You have to work with the dog and the client inside the house first. I mean, I've done things. I do things a little bit differently. Like I depending on the dog and as I've gotten older and for a couple other reasons, I do things a little bit differently. And I've learned a lot from you too, Julie, right? But putting a lot of pressure on the dog, it can also come back to get you later, because sometimes those dogs will accept that pressure from you until they see you next time. And then they're waiting and they're ready. They're a little taken back by you the first time, but then when you come back, they're ready for you. And that's a good way you get bit too. There are a lot of trainers that I've talked to over the years that said they went in too strong on a dog and they got bit. And in some cases, it's sad to me because that dog had never had a bite before. And so what are you doing? You put so much pressure on this dog to see if the dog's going to follow through. And then you get your butt bit. And now your client's dog, who hasn't bitten but has aggression, has now landed a bite. And guess what? It's going to land another one. Biting works.
Well, and I have to wonder, I haven't read any studies about this in particular, but when a dog does anything that makes it feel safer and more secure, there is a huge rush of dopamine and serotonin.
For bite too.
Well, and that would be including biting, right?
Yeah.
What makes the dog feel safer.
It's a stress reliever.
Yes, it's getting that immediate reward from doing so, even if you're just, quote unquote, evaluating or assessing the dog. The dog is internally rewarded for doing that behavior, even if in the trainer's mind, they're like, oh, well, the dog's learning biting me doesn't work.
That doesn't mean it's going to teach the dog that biting doesn't work.
Yeah, but that's what they think they're teaching. If let's say, okay, let's just say trying to get a leash on a dog or something, and the dog keeps trying to bite the human. And the dog's biting because it's keeping the leash from going on the dog.
Right.
Doesn't want the leash put on. And so we put on bite gloves and just put the leash on the dog. And meanwhile, the dog's biting the gloves.
Well, you're going too fast. Why would you do that? Like, in the case that you have to, there's a case where you're working in an animal shelter and you got a dog that's injured and you got to get that leash on or whatever the heck you got to do, right? There are reasons why we have to go in on a dog really fast, but not when you're working with a pet dog. What's the rush? Yeah,
and I'm not convinced the dog's learning that doesn't work. I'm convinced he's learning people aren't trustworthy and don't respect his wishes.
Well, true. And when they're afraid, they need some understanding from us too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I've never put pressure on a dog to get a leash on. I mean, of course I have, because I go into shelters and put leashes on dogs that don't want them put on. But if
pressure is later a release of tension. Did I say that correctly? I wanted to say it correctly. It's in my head correctly. Positive pressure is a release later, because as soon as they figure out they can release that on their own, they're like,
Yeah, it's negative reinforcement.
But they can do so many more things.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't even know if it works. And what you were saying, you were telling me about in the 80s, you guys would, well, not you, but it was a thing.
It was a thing in the 80s to take dogs that would come to dog trainers because they'd had a fear bite. They call it fear biting, the fear biting dog. And so we'd put the dog in group class for protection work, and we would teach that dog to bite. Okay. And the whole idea was so that the next time he bit somebody, he could call him off. Failed miserably. Why? Because the idea of training a dog that is fearful and has had bites is that dog doesn't bite anymore. And it's not about punishing it.
It's about advocating for the dog so that it feels safe and doesn't feel like it needs to bite. And the dog knows obedience.
Correct.
And putting the dog behind you. And now for our Truth is Stranger Than Fiction short story. All right, so go ahead and just tell the story of the guy that adopted the German Shepherd.
Oh, yes. Well, he adopted the dog, and I went back and got the dog within an hour. I hadn't even made it home yet when I had to turn around and go back and get her. I placed her with a retired, let's just say police agent. I don't need to talk about his background. And he keeps his loaded service weapon next to him all the time. And he had left it sitting on the floor next to the couch. He had the dog out.
Was he taking a nap?
No, I don't know that he was taking a nap. He was probably sitting there. The dog grabs a hold of this guy's service weapon and starts to run about the house with it. And he managed, luckily, to get it away from her. Not the best thing in the world,
Not the best thing in the world.
Who would ever think that a dog would grab a gun?
Well, hold on.
To put that type of metal or anything in their mouth to begin with.
But who would leave a loaded weapon without a safety on next to them on the floor?
Well, so the safety was on.
Oh, the safety was on. Okay.
The safety was on, the slightest wrong move on the dog's behalf. And I should have asked him which end of the gun she picked up. But, once I went back to go pick her up, we did have a little bit of a good laugh. You know me very well, and I love watching crime shows, and Forensic Files is one of my favorite shows. And so I kind of joked with him because I've known this guy for a long time, but I joked with him and I said, well, here, an announcement. Forensic Files have come to this retired police officer's home and have found him dead, serviced by his own service weapon. Service weapon is on the floor. German Shepherd is present, but the dog can't talk. So it becomes a whodunit, and they'll never figure it out. So he and I got a good laugh, but definitely not the right dog for this guy. And I'd placed dogs with him before, and I kind of felt like she was too much. And he really wanted to give it a try. And so it just goes to say that my original thought was right, and I should have listened to that. But wanted to give the guy and the dog a chance. Just didn't work out.
Well,
so I did change her name. Her name was Josie. I changed her name to Annie Get Your Gun. So there it is.
I don't think anyone could have predicted that is what would have happened.
No. No, not at all. But it did.
Yeah.
So thank goodness nothing bad happened. Now we can kind of make fun of it a little bit. But, yep. Things you don't think to tell your client. Hey, make sure your guns are not laying out when your dog is with you on a leash.
Now you know, everyone. Dogs will pick them up in their mouths.
Yep.
And back, starting with myth number 2.
What about outlets?
Oh, yeah, outlets. Well, let's see. Our next myth, number two. That was a long discussion about myth number one, but it needed to be said. Myth number two: all dogs need to play tug and flirt pole for an outlet,
No,
or exercise. I don't know quite how to put this, but jacking up a dog, to me, I see a lot of issues happening where the dog it's performing its behaviors. And again, these are companion dogs. These are not, dog trainers' dogs or sport dogs or anything like that. These are normal, average pet owners' dogs, and they're being jacked up to the point where they cannot come down. Maybe is a good way to put it.
Generalized anxiety, I like to call that. That's when you take an anxious dog that maybe has some good prey drive and just that dog just can't stop playing ball 24/7. And you just try to wear it out and you just keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And that's not good for so many reasons. I believe all dogs need exercise. I believe all dogs need a thing. I believe, depending on the dog's disposition, temperament, what the client can handle, what the dog's behavior is. Like, let's say we have a dog that's, I don't know, a long time ago, there was a thing on Facebook about some dog that was under 10 pounds that was chasing cars. And everybody had all these ideas about how they were going to correct this 10-pound dog with ECollars and long lines with a prong collar so it hits the end of the leash and like all these things for this little tiny dog. You chase the car, and there was discussion about, like, the dog needs some kind of outlet. Well, that wouldn't be a dog I would want to play fetch with. That wouldn't be a dog I want to play any kind of prey game with. Why? That's not going to help that dog. So that little dog needed to do some kind of scent work and other kinds of things to calm the dog, not to get the dog more adrenalized and more jacked up into prey drive. It's a pet dog. And it's not just going out and having its outlet and then getting put back in a crate. Because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot of working dog people I know, and yeah, they get the dog all wild and they can do the tug and they can do all the things, but that dog doesn't live peacefully and calmly in the house either. Now, there are some that can, because they have great resting character and they have great temperaments and they can do that kind of thing and then go in the house and be fine and have their outlet for the day and still be great pets and sleep on the couch or whatever, right? But if the temperament isn't conducive to that, and then you're doing the wrong type of outlet, I think that's when it's a problem. And I know people laugh about, oh, there's Phyllis with her no fluffy, no stuffy, no squeaky, no rope toy. Phyllis doesn't have any fun with dogs. Bullshit. I've done weight pull. I've done bite work. I've done all kinds of things. I've competed in obedience. I've competed in rally. I've had multiple Malinois come through my house that I've raised as puppies, and they've gone on to do great work. I've done lots of fun things like that. Search and rescue for 2 years after 9/11. There's a lot of things that I really enjoyed doing. And boy, we had a great time with those dogs. And I love playing a good game of tug of war with a dog, But that's not what I enjoy doing with my client dogs. My clients can barely walk their dog down the street. Why in the world would I want to get that dog all kinds of wild to wear it out so it has some kind of outlet? I think there are other things. I've done a lot of dogs, if you have the right environment for it, I think it's one of the best things. Allowing that dog to have free rein on a long encouraging them to do things like environmental, sometimes one of the best outlets for an agility course. Right? Just to allow them to be in a place where they're allowed to be. I have done.
Oh, I should say this.
Yes.
Science to back this up.
Okay.
So when I was helping on the Lima Cynopraxis study group or work group, we had to read Stephen Lindsay's books, all three of them. And there's an experiment from the 60s where they purposely made dogs neurotic.
Oh, I remember you talking about this, yes.
Right? So they restrained the dog. They did like just random punishment and shocks and all kinds of things to make the dogs neurotic. Anyone with an e-collar, remember this experiment. If you're giving the dog punishment that does not make sense to the dog, you will make the dog neurotic and anxious. So, but then, so they did that just to see how they could help the dog recover. Guess what helped it recover?
Sniffing.
Long line in the woods.
Yep, there you go. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding,
Long
ding.
line walks in nature.
Yes.
And if we participate in that with dogs, even better. And yeah, I mean, I can barely think of a client that has come to me that's, first of all, under the age of 50, that also could play tug with a dog properly. You know, like their timing, the basics of their skills have to be formed before they can go to this level with their dogs, in my opinion. You know, timing, the dog has to be able to listen to them. They have to know how to hold a leash, right? They have to be able to walk their dog. Like there's so many more important things that will actually increase the quality of life for this dog, in my opinion, than playing tug. I mean, of course, with my dogs, you know, I had hounds, so of course I did nose work with them. With Shiloh, I did therapy dog work with her because that's what she liked to do. So I think with the fulfillment and the outlet, you have to look at what does that dog want to do? Not what you want to do with the dog, but what does that dog want to do? And do that. But before you do that, if it's like a prey-driven activity, let's say like hunting mice with your dog, right? Like there has to be a basis of a relationship there. So you can.
Well, sometimes it's just finding the thing that both the dog and the human want to do. I mean, you know me, I'm like telling people, don't get down on the ground and play wrestle roughhouse games with your puppy and then wonder why it's jumping up and biting at you and doing things because this particular puppy is super mouthy, right? But I had this great client, he's a big guy, and he had an old English Mastiff. And when I first met that dog just pissed itself on the side of people. And poor Moose, he was scared of everything. But you know, we helped Moose and we got him out of the submissive urination and we got him out walking around the neighborhood and we got him out walking around with people and doing all kinds of things. And his reward at the end of every walk was to roughhouse with David. And they would wrestle in the grass and roll all around and the dog would be all over him and he'd be all over the dog. Dog never used his mouth. But that's what they did. And they had a great time. And that dog never bit anybody. And he got where he stopped peeing 100% with people. And he actually got where he liked people and liked people to pet him and say hello to him about the neighborhood. So there are all kinds of things you can do. I prefer to do weight pull with my dogs. I used to compete years ago and I'm back in again. I just started working with that American bully that I got from your shelter up there, Cloud. Yeah. Cloud. She's such a pillow. She's so cute and sweet and cuddly.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And then Evie, my pit bull. And I might even work my Corso on that also. I call her Corso. She's part Rottweiler too, but a little bit of pit bull, of course. You know, all the dogs here have a little bit of some kind of pit bull on them. But it's great. You know, we do a trail walk and then we do some tire pulling, and you know, Matt's getting ready to we're going to build a cart and really get going here on it. So pretty excited. There are other things. I have pictures. I have to find them somewhere of burlap sacks hanging out of trees at my parents' house when I was like just out of high school and I'd started training dogs. And you know, that's what I would do after the walk. I would have my little mix and my pit bull mix, my first pit bull mix. And we would do, you know, tug on the burlap sack hanging from the tree, kind of like a spring pole, but not really. Of course, I did work with that dog also, my pit bull, my first pit bull shepherd. Now I'm like, nah, I don't do bite work with pit bulls. Don't agree with it. Right. But I did with her.
I think the point is that there is not a cookie cutter thing that works for every dog, right?
No,
If you have to force your dog to play tug or flirt pole, maybe your dog doesn't want to play tug or flirt pole.
Well, I have seen some of that where people get their dog to do stuff the dog has no interest. Like, you're not connecting with your dog if you're trying to get the dog to do something a dog has no interest in. And sometimes the dog has great interest in something and we want to do it anyway. Let's say we want to play tug with the dog, but we have certain issues with it. Like, maybe it doesn't have a good out, and maybe the dog's a bit stubborn and isn't really listening to the person. And so they want to get the dog to play tug and get the dog to let go, but the dog doesn't have otherwise any kind of aggression. Great. No problem. Now, another thing I see, it's easy to teach a dog an out. We just use the e-collar. I got a better way. Let the dog have it. Put the dog up on an elevated spot and don't let it let go of the toy. I don't care how long it takes. When it wants to let go of it, don't let him drop it. He's got to hold it longer until he really wants to let go of it. Works really good when it's a little bit hot outside too. You just have to be careful, keep an eye on your dog, make sure your dog doesn't overheat. But they will want to spit the ball out, and then you go, out. Works great. Don't need it quick. The dog needs to learn on its own. And I had pretty serious Malinois pit bulls.
Yeah, but of course we're talking about, companion dogs. And if you want to teach most companion dogs, I would say, to let go of something, you just calmly hold it and wait till they let go, because it's not going to take that long.
No.
And then you just say, out, when it lets go. And then you just keep repeating that. And within like 5 or 6 times, the dog usually has an idea, right?
Well, yeah.
Of course, when they spit it out, of course, then you reward them with something.
Yeah.
Usually getting the toy again.
I mean, but there are some dogs we don't want to do that with. To me, you don't want to do that with a dog that's resource guarding and is living in a home with kids, and that dog doesn't need that kind of tug of war outlet.
Well, yeah.
Not the right thing. And I think that's what we keep talking about. And we are talking about pet dogs. And that's where, and I'm doing it too. I'm sitting here saying, well, when I had this dog, when I was doing that in the 80s, I did this and I did that. Yeah, I did do those things, but those are not the things that we do with our pet dogs. And I think when we have that rare client that is great at handling dogs, some of these things might work. But most of these things are failing. And then later, the trainers, I'm hearing them say, well, the client didn't keep it up like I told them to. Well, but the client is going to be, if you're lucky, 1/10 of what you are with their dog. They're not dog handlers. They don't know what they're doing. They need bare minimum to learn how to work with their dog and handle their dog and also have fun doing it. And I mean, a lot of the reasons why I changed my ways, and I still do obedience training. I don't do as much heavy obedience with my clients anymore because they kept complaining. They didn't want to just sit down, stay heel, sit down, stay heel, sit down, stay heel. They need to do that, but they need to do lots of other things too, and they need to enjoy it. Most of my clients said, all I want to do is just go for a walk. I don't want to left turn, right turn, about turn, sit, stay, down, stay, over here, now long down, stay. Now there's somebody going by. So every time a person goes by, I got to make the dog sit and stay. They didn't want to do that. They just wanted to avoid conflict with their dog, and they wanted to keep moving and get the walk done and do the thing. They don't mind practicing a little bit of obedience a few minutes before leaving for the walk or whatever, but they didn't want the whole walk to be obedience training. We might enjoy doing that, but they might not.
My karate sensei has a saying, you need to teach what they need to learn. You don't teach what you want to teach.
Oh, very well said. Of course, who you should really be doing podcasts with is Sensei.
Well, I'm a little scared to ask him, to be honest, but he has a lot of good insight.
Hold on. So are you a little scared or are you a little shy? Because I saw the little, like, you turned away and you looked away, right?
Yeah, because I'm being submissive at the thought of him. No,
he would tell you not to be afraid.
He would. But, I'm working up to it. Give me a break.
Okay.
So, but And when he said that, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, because I've altered how I've done my lessons a lot too, because I used to pretty much go in there with my agenda of what
Mhm.
I was going to teach.
Makes sense. Yep.
Now I really try to listen to the client, figure out what's the minimum they need to learn and what things are the most important for them to learn. And usually, I'm going to say usually, the most important thing for them to learn is how to control space in the house. Because the dog's all over them and controlling their space and getting on their lap and like you said, like barking at them if they don't move off the couch and the client
Yeah, I'm
moves.
saying, like, with that particular dog, I would not have had them step into that dog and back that dog off on the first session because that dog hadn't had a bite, but he might, because they were moving off the space of the couch. Oh, you want to sit in the spot that I'm sitting in the couch? Sure, you can have the spot. I'll move over. Take
Yeah.
the warm, right? Because they didn't think it was harmless to them. They didn't really think anything of it. Oh, silly dog. He wants to sit where I'm sitting. Like, people don't, they're not thinking about it as being any kind of malice or any kind of being in charge or anything, right? Their dog's generally pretty sweet and nice and whatever.
I'm not talking about dogs like that one that might bite the client. I'm just
Right.
talking about dogs in general. Is usually I see that's the main issue, is that the human does not have as much influence over the dog as the dog does over the human.
Correct.
And so then when they take the dog out for a walk, it's the same way. The dog tries to, react and pull them and do all these things. So if we start in the house first, and just learning how to gradually but with some sense of assertiveness, like, hey, you're not going to tell me, you're not going to sit on my lap anymore, right? You're not going to like paw at me for affection, right? Like,
yep. And it's usually the first thing dogs do when they come in this house. It's like, which space are you going to take when you walk in? My dogs don't let them take any space.
yeah,
They stop away, or they keep them in the crate and don't let them come out.
yeah.
Right? I leave the crate door open. I let my dogs keep them in there. They say when they can come out, when the energy's right. Right. So that's correct. That makes sense.
So I switch from doing, a lot of more obedience-based stuff with my clients to more of this kind of thing, because this is every day, all the time. And if you teach them how to train their dog on obedience, that might be 20 minutes a day.
Well, I'm glad you said that, actually, right? Because are we expecting that our clients are working and I mean, for all the dog trainers out there, are we expecting that these dogs are being worked in obedience every single time the client has the dog?
Is interacting with the dog.
Correct. Because I'm saying, like, what are we teaching these clients to do when they're not on a cot, when they're not on a leash, when they're not wearing collar and the client has the e-collar in their hand? Because they have to have good timing. If you have an e-collar, you must have that remote in your hand. Okay.
Or on the flip side, if they have a bag of treats and their clicker.
Same thing. You got to have it. Right. So what are we teaching the client to do with the dog when they're not under training? Because what I see is nothing, or not much of, or not clear instructions, or put the
dog's always in training.
The dog always in training. And the only dogs that need to be always in training like that are the ones that are dangerous or serious bite risk, right? Those dogs be managed like that all the time, unless there's nothing going on and they have a good relationship with their human, right? I think that's what we're saying, right? And what you're saying, you don't do as much obedience as you used to, because now you're teaching people life skills with their dog. And it's basically like, how do you live in harmony with your dog and have a well-behaved dog that follows obedience instructions when you need it? Come when you're called. Don't drag me down the street, right? Don't jump up on the hot stove. There are things that we teach the dog shouldn't do. Go to your place. I agree with all those things, right? But they can't live like that.
No, they can't. I don't think most people want a dog that has to be on place or in training mode, 16 hours a day.
I mean, this would be a good question on Facebook, actually, that we post out there. Hey, everybody, what do you teach your clients when you're not teaching them to do obedience? Or, what do you teach your clients as far as, helping the dog navigate through life and your client navigate through life when the dog is difficult? And I don't mean necessarily aggressive. I mean difficult. What do you have your client do with the dog? And outside of, crate time, what do you do?
Yeah, and I think, and I'll just say, people will pay you a lot of money for this information, because I've gotten really good feedback from my clients about how, I'm more empathetic to their, like, I had a client a few weeks ago with the pit bull I sent you the picture of, and they have two small kids. They both work. The kids have activities. And she sent me some feedback, something like she had dog trainers out that were kind of militant, and, she's very happy that I was more flexible.
Well, yeah. I mean, and again, dogs need certain things for safety, and so do people. People don't want to get dragged down the street, right? But that's kind of what I'm saying. The same thing, right? And this is what I'm seeing, and what I see is the same protocol for the same dog for no matter what's going on. All the specialists that specialize in fear, aggression, anxiety, etc., all do the same training for every single dog in their program. I don't understand. I'm confused.
So let's go to the next myth: is we need to put an e-collar on every dog for every problem, and we can fix it in 3 weeks.
You might have that dog managed in 3 weeks for yourself, but the long term of that is not what I see. Like this 3-dog client, right? All 3 dogs went into board and train for 3 weeks for e-collar training, right? They were pretty good at leave it. There were a couple things that the dogs knew. They were not consistent in staying in their beds. They were not consistent on leash walking. Leash walking was kind of a disaster. What I find with a lot of these people is they're actually confused about when and how to use the e-collar. And I'm not saying all trainers out there are not teaching people properly. I'm saying what I'm seeing is when they're not getting trained properly on the e-collar, people are confused about what to do. And in I've had several people that said, well, I picked up my dog and I had no idea they were going to train the dog on an e-collar. And some people are upset about it and just throw out the e-collar and never put it on the dog and say, well, I should have asked, but I'm not interested in doing that. Right. And maybe they would be interested in doing that if they were taught properly. Right. And I'm not saying that no dog should ever be trained on an e-collar. I just think that if you look up dog training, this is what you find: 2-week or 3-week e-collar programs. If you're lucky, you might find a 4-week that does only recalls with the e-collar, but no other e-collar training. Or 100% positive only, harnesses and flexi leads and buckle collars may not even be okay. Or you have your pill doctors. It's like in clinics for, you go in and you say, I need medication for my dog because my dog is a problem. Right.
Oh, and I've done a ton of research on this lately, but that's not what this show is about.
No, this is what's out there. And so I know that's what's happening. And a lot of clients that come to me later, they're like, well, and it is the dog trained. If I put the equipment on the dog, I get different reactions. I have had some dogs that get really nervous as soon as they even see the collar. I have clients that say, well, I don't need to put the collar on. I just show them the remote and go, you better not. And they just stop what they're doing. And I look at the client and I go, well, what do you think? Why do you think that is? That the dog gets that concerned just at the sight of your remote, so too much punishment coming from that direction. Right. And really what I see a lot of is just people keep turning it up, keep going higher, or they're even told by their trainer, well, turn it up. If he's not listening, turn it up. And again, used correctly, it can be a great tool, but it's, to me, not a way. You don't just put an e-collar on the dog the first day the dog comes in and start teaching the dog e-collar training. I think there's no relationship building there. People think they're building relationship with an e-collar. What do you need the e-collar to build a relationship with? Or you hear, I would have no idea how to condition or train a dog on any kind of anything without the e-collar. I don't know how to do that. Really?
Well, the things that really kill me are I need an e-collar for a 8-pound Chihuahua.
Going to say that was just posted, and people are going on, and there were some pictures actually of what was considered the smallest collar, and I'm looking at that going, well, it's almost the same size as the dog's head. Like, how safe is that amount of weight for some of these tiny dogs, and what do you need that for? My goodness, really are, the dog runs away and it needs a good off-leash recall. Really? I mean, train the dog. I
have a Chihuahua that's going off leash that far away. I'm just going to say it could get eaten by a coyote
or a hawk. Well, and I just am. That's where I'm like, what do you? Why can't you just train the dog with a little collar and a long line? And if the dog's a flight risk, maybe it doesn't need to be off leash, right? Yeah. And if in the cases with dogs that are really aggressive, why do we need them to be off leash so they can have an outlet? What happens if there's a problem where you have your dog off leash? I mean, there's.
Oh, let's talk about the how the e-collar can actually exacerbate and jack up some dogs.
It can. I can say that I use that in a positive way with a couple of my dogs.
To achieve what?
Oh, because I was having fun with obedience and I wanted the dog to look all jacked up, looking up at me and, flipping that left turn real good, not taking their eyes off me. Yeah. Let's do
what number did you use for that on Molly?
I used 52.
And she'd be like, oh yeah, let's go.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do more. She fucking loved it.
So if you're doing that with a pet dog that's like that, it could be a problem for the owner.
Yeah. Very few dogs get like that, but she got excited. She enjoyed it. She loved it. Right. And people are going to think, they're going to go, oh my God, really? I don't even know if I want you to put that out there, but I guess so. But yeah, I had her on a high level. Now
it's all about the individual dog. For her, it was a positive.
When I had no e-collar on that dog, and you worked her, actually. You worked that dog.
Yeah.
Yes, Julie Hart did a great job with my Rottweiler. I had you handle that dog 2 ways. Once with an e-collar and once on probably a flat collar, right? Just a buck collar, or maybe a choke collar or something, right? But not an e-collar. And how did she work? Nice and calm. Heel.
Yeah, she was engaged, but not.
No excitement.
In drive.
Not in drive. And when she was in drive, we used a different language. I used German. And then she was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah, but that e-collar got her there real quick.
It did. It did not make her go, oh shit. It got her excited. She loved it.
Finesse and observation comes into play.
Yes.
When using tools, make sure you're watching what it actually does to the dog.
Right.
And be careful what you might bring out in a dog if the dog does not belong to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because if the client does that and all of a sudden the dog's like, oh yeah, let's go. And the client's like, oh my God, what do I do now?
You know what really bothered me, Julie? And you can put this on or not put this on, but why in the world would you put an e-collar on a body of a dog and correct it?
Because the dog was too small for the e-collar to go around its neck.
I know, but like, really? Why? And what part are you putting that on?
I don't know. And maybe let's just give that the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the owner had a physical need for that.
Excuse me?
Maybe the owner had a handicap.
To put a collar on a Chihuahua's?
I don't know. I'm just coming up with maybe a good reason.
I don't find any reason to train a dog on an e-collar around its body or on its tail, for that matter, or in its groin. It's cruel. It's cruel.
Of course. But
and then we say, but it's just a little, for some dogs, it's not just a little. My Rottweiler freaking loved it. It was different, but it was also how I introduced it to her. And that's how I worked her in there. But it's not, I've done that with 2 dogs. The only 2 dogs that would have worked on. There's no other reason. Mostly I use e-collars for recall, which I think a lot of trainers do.
yeah,
A great dog to get lots of freedom and run around and be a dog, right? And you have a good solid recall. I've trained thousands of dogs that way for my clients. Thousands. I don't disagree with it. I just think this putting it on every single dog for every single issue, when are we just training? Are we training dogs? And then again, with the clients, I see way too many clients that have no clue how to use the tool. And we all know in dog training, what's the most important thing when you're working with a dog? Your timing has to be impeccable. And here we always hear from positive people, the dog is always faster than us. This is true, right?
I think it's 0.8 seconds.
I think you're right. But here's the point. If the timing is off and people are already struggling and they're not us, they're only going to be accurate when they're in training mode with the dog. And at that, they might not be. And then you have to teach the client how to do that. We have a hard enough teaching the client how to administer a collar correction.
I will say too, just having a client hold treats in their hand and give it to the dog at the right time takes them a lot of practice.
Correct.
Right? So you don't want them learning that with an e-collar.
Well, so
you want them learning it with a leash or some treats, right? So they can learn the body language of the dog, when to do certain things, how to do it quickly, and how to see. I have another sensei quote: what to see, when to see, how to see.
Okay.
So the clients need to learn how to see the cues that they should either, punish or reinforce.
Right.
And if they can't even see those cues, how are they ever going to use an e-collar?
Well, so just to give you an idea, this is how I taught my clients how to use an e-collar. And you know this because I probably did it with you.
It was a long time ago.
The first thing I do is I put a long line on the dog. This is also what I do when I'm working with kids, okay? Kids and non-threatening dogs. I feel like I should say that and I shouldn't have to. I hold the remote. The client holds the leash. And this is in the case that we're having the dog heel for the client or stay next to them or whatever, right? And then the next step is that I hand them the remote and I turn it off. And if they start looking at the remote and looking for the button and then pushing it, which often I see. So I teach them how to hold the remote in their hand and timing with the button, but they're hitting it, but there's nothing happening to
Kevin's home. That was some good examples of barks with brakes in them. Hey, stop. Taz. Stop.
What was I saying? I forgot.
You teach the client.
Teaching the e-collar, right? So in taking all that time to teach the client, the other thing I would do is put the e-collar on me and make movements and have them tap the collar. So I know that their timing is right. Does that make sense? So if I move my hand, that's the dog doing something it's not supposed to do. I want you to hit the button. Now I want you to walk next to me and I'm the dog and I make the mistake, right? Bob Maida used to have, he put the collar, a choke collar on his arm, and he would get down on the floor and he would have the client release and pop and release the chain collar so that they learned how to release it if there was tension in it. Release, pop, release, right? Don't pull, release. You can't do that if it's already tight. And he would practice with them repeatedly until they got it. And then he would go get the dog. And he taught me to do that. And I felt really stupid, like crawling around the front yard with clients. But I did it, you know. And to this day,
you need to crawl around. You might just be able to stand there.
Now I sit in a chair and have somebody sit next to me, and I do it that way because I'm not going to crawl around like, you know. But the point is that I think you have to teach people regardless. And I just don't see that happening. And I think that's my big complaint about ECollars. It's not that there aren't great trainers out there that use ECollars properly. I think that's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is every single dog is the same training. It's the same program, regardless of temperament, regardless of behavior, regardless as to what the client can handle. And then we go in 3 weeks, the dog was great. I don't know why the client's having a problem. You know, and then the clients come to me and they're like, we were so confused. Like we had no idea. And then you see the dog and the dog is like stress panting and drooling at the sight of the collar. And I'm like, well, it wasn't introduced properly. Something went wrong here. Or those Goldens that we had. Remember those 2 Goldens? I mean, as soon as I would give any kind of verbal or do anything, they wouldn't even have anything on them. They would start drooling and laying down and sitting and moving this way. And then they'd be twitching and shaking their head all the time and from the collar, right?
Yeah. And it shouldn't look like that.
Head every time you give it a command, I can tell you that the pressure's too heavy. And then
if you are a dog owner and you see the person you're thinking of hiring to train your dog, if you see the dogs they've trained looking that way, don't hire them.
Correct. There's good and bad in everything. And again, a little bit of stress can be normal. A little bit of stress can be good. I'm not saying that there isn't a little bit of stress sometimes when you're teaching something, but it shouldn't be all the time. You know,
I would argue stress is a given when anything is learning a new skill, because that's a given, right? And sometimes a little stress could look like the dog panting a little, or maybe, you know, whining a little or acting confused because it just doesn't know what to do because it hasn't been taught yet, right? And it's trying to figure it out. And that is the good part of stress, because then the dog learns what to do. It makes the dog resilient, right?
Yeah.
If there's a healthy challenge and the dog learns to succeed, that builds resilience.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's no winning for the dog, or the dog doesn't ever figure it out, which could happen with any kind of training, that's not good stress.
The person I trained under for disaster search and rescue work and got the dog from, he would say positive stress is critical. You need some level of stress when you're learning, but it's positive because the outcome is the dog going, oh, I got it.
Yeah. Well,
and
especially in those situations,
it shouldn't stay there.
Yeah.
When you go back into that later and they have a clear understanding, the stress should no longer be there. And if it's still there, it wasn't taught correctly to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, we have another myth, but we're going to have to do this another day. Dogs resource guard because they don't respect the handler.
Oh, where'd you hear that? Yeah, that'll be great.
I suppose in rare situations that could be true, but we should probably do a podcast just on resource guarding because it's pretty long. It's pretty.
Didn't we do one once before?
Yeah, but that was old. All right, so we only tackled 3 myths. I always say though, if anyone watches Ink Master, do you watch Ink Master?
Yeah.
The categories they give, like finesse, detail, contrast.
I don't like the guy, so I stopped watching.
Doesn't
No.
matter. Anyway, you know the categories, right?
Yes.
We could apply all those categories to dog training to have a better product.
What are they again? Finesse?
There's finesse, there's detail, there's contrast, there's I can't remember the others off the top of my head.
Okay.
But finesse and detail to me is a big one, right?
Yep.
Finesse is all about what to do in certain situations. You're not going to put the same tattoo, the same size, the same colors on every single person. I got to scoot because Kevin's home. So,
Yep.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me, Julie Hart, for this podcast. I hope you found it inspirational and educational and might cause you to look a little deeper into that canine companion sitting next to you today. Find out more about my online and in-person dog training options. Please go to my website, hearttoheartcanine.com, and go to store to see my workshops. And for online learning, click on the online learning tab. I have tons of online learning about no-centric methods, fearful dogs, feral dogs, and reactivity. Please keep in mind, this podcast is not made for individual dog training information. We do not know your dog. We do not know you. And so this podcast is made merely for entertainment and educational purposes. Please contact a professional trainer or one of my guests or me if you have a dog training concern. Dogs can be inherently dangerous, and it's good to exercise common sense and caution when dealing with dogs. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit like or subscribe or follow to be notified of our next episode. Your continued support is very much appreciated. I really treasure all the good feedback and personal messages I've gotten about my guests on this podcast. Hope you all have a great day.